What do you think is going to happen this week with the Troll? Do you think he's going to aim up? Do you think he's going to be the best player on the field? And can he get the Bunnies home?
He has to be the best player on the field if South Sydney are any hope. He's got to produce a 10 out of 10. The only way South Sydney can win if Latrell gets close to a 10 and Cody Walker gets close to a 10. Yeah. Otherwise, I can't see South Sydney win.
All right, is that right? Strong on that?
Have to. Latrell Mitchell has to be the best player on the field for South Sydney to win. And it's got to be close to a 10. Okay. There's no doubt about that in my mind.
Yeah. Penrith's just primed. Look, this time last year, Penrith were carrying injuries. Let's remember Nathan Cleary had that shoulder injury. Various other players had injuries they were carrying into the games. They're as fresh as daisies right now, Penrith. And they really are. And they've had... Look, the only Achilles heel I think Penrith, where they could be got, is the fact that their lack of football. Because let's remember, Ivan rested many of them in that last round. Then they went out and won and got a week off. So they've not had a lot of football. Now, whether that affects their timing, I don't think it's going to affect their physical fitness side of it. They're very good in that area to make sure that they're on song there. But yeah, that could maybe do that. Maybe at the end of the game or the end of each half, you can get a little bit vulnerable there. But
I think we're looking for ways that they could possibly lose because there's not many of them.
No. Well, that's it, Braith. Well, that's what Souths are doing, though. Yeah. Souths are looking for ways to beat them.
Of course.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is the way both teams play. Souths are a team, and this will help Penrith, I think, with their lack of football. Souths are a stop-start team. They like to attack and they like the game to be pulled up so they can continually reset and go again. Penrith are a little bit more. They're like that football that just transitions from attack to defence and back again and keep the ball in play and wear you down and keep coming at you. They're so fast. Like Penrith are a marvel to watch in attack and how well they get around the ball and there's always a threat. There's never a dead play.
We saw them get into that rhythm against the Eels and they were just like a machine. It was so well oiled. And to your point about the fact that maybe there might be a little bit of ring rust. Well, there wasn't that night. Nathan Cleary had missed 5 weeks. Other players had been rested. I think for the Bunnies, the style that they play, it's the old boxing analogy, styles make fights. They like to take risks. They like to throw the ball around. Their completion rate often is not high and they can make some errors. But the style that they play side to side and then punching through the middle and trying to play off the back of quick play the balls, it could unsettle Penrith.
Yeah. Penrith never implode. They're just an 8, 9 or a 10 out of 10 every single week. The Bunnies can. And you're right, Mick. I think the Bunnies need a 10, minimum 9 to beat them, but they can get themselves in some trouble when they can't control the footy, South.
The good thing about South Sydney last week was that there's so much praise for their left edge, but it was their right edge which had the joy defensively. And with the footy, Lockie Ilias, Keon Kalamatangi, Campbell Graham were outstanding. So that's what they're going to need. They're going to be threats on both sides of the field, and too much has been going left. It was good to see them go right last week.
Now, South's launched a campaign again against Nathan Cleary and his blockers at Penrith. Now, if you remember last year, it was on for young and old. I think it was the first semi-final. Wayne Bennett came out. He warned the referees. He put them on notice. They got results that game. Cleary was not happy at all about the result and about the change in apparent refereeing.
Well, he went off like a 2-bob watch after the game and only later conceded that it got to him and that he handled it poorly and he learned his lesson come the grand final.
Wayne schooled him, you're right, Wayne schooled him after that opening week of the finals. The Bunnies caused the upset. Penrith had to go the hard road and go down to Melbourne and beat the Storm and then continue to roll into the grand final. But Wayne, I think, taught Ivan a couple of lessons about the fine arts of how you can play out what's going to happen on the field, right, by actually using the media to your advantage. I think Ivan learned some valuable lessons out of that and he got the result when it mattered most in the grand final.
Well, he didn't bite. South tried again grand final week, if you remember, and I was too cool. He said nothing. He just sat back and let the footy do the talking and they got the result. And again, it's on again, Braith.
Here's the game against the Eels and you can see here.
Well, this is what Souths are bringing up now.
Is it okay to do this?
No, it's not. It's illegal to do this.
Is it illegal?
It's illegal to do that. And you see Isaiah Yeo there actually steps back to prevent the
you can't
chase.
Do that.
He's completely shifting out of position.
You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to be impeded. If you go back to that rule that was there that Souths have highlighted and put out for public perusal, the kindness of South Sydney. Thank you, South Sydney. But they've highlighted and put it out there. The fact is you're not allowed to do it. Look, most teams do it. Not only Penrith do it, but Penrith, I think, advantaged the most by it because Cleary's the best kicker in the game.
Yeah, there's no doubt if we sat there and watch vision of every club kicking the ball. There's going to be instances where they're doing that. But to Kenty's point, they're trying to find a way to nullify Nathan Cleary's kicking game because at the moment he can't be stopped. We saw the exhibit that he put on against Wonga, still having nightmares over that last couple of weeks ago.
And you can see what they're doing there. They've transitioned a little bit. And this is the clever coaching that's happening at Penrith. Most teams, what they do is, and this is what Penrith were doing last year, putting one guy right there and he was moving to try and make sure he interferes with the chaser. What they're doing now is they've got two people there, slightly different angles, so he's basically got to weave his way through to get to Cleary now. So they're not moving now as such, but there's two people there that just add to the degree of difficulty.
Could you imagine Ashley Klein blows a penalty in the first kick of the game?
Oh, see, that'll set the tone. That'll set the tone.
Of course, but it's not going to happen.
He's either going to blow the penalty straight away, or he's not.
And we know he can set a tone, Klein, after recent weeks. Yeah.
It's just enough to plant the seed, just enough.
But I look, if Ashley Klein does go out and we see that and he blows a penalty, all well and good. Because it's not
the rules.
It's the rules,
It's the rules, so it should be a penalty.
And the fact that Penrith are clearly coached to try and exploit that and exploit the lack of action from the referees, the other part.
Love the mind games. Ivan Cleary was questioned about the Panthers' use of the blocking tactics today, but predictably, he says his team is playing within the rules.
Sounds like Groundhog Day. Yeah. I don't have a take on it.
What do you mean by Groundhog Day?
Well, I thought that's exactly the same as what happened last year, I think. So, yeah, no, I'm not worried about that.
Just back on South Sydney and the blocking, I know you didn't want to really have a take on it. But
Let's talk about it then.
yeah,
come on.
Does it feel like this story is very perfectly timed, almost planted in the media, to give themselves a bit of an edge when it comes to stopping Nathan's kicking?
Oh, well, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't read the story. I don't know who wrote it. I don't know anything about it. So what I do know is Ashley Klein's a very experienced referee. He'll ref the game how he sees it. It's all part of the game. It's all good.
From your point of view, I'm assuming everything you guys do to protect Nathan, which I'm sure every team must have protect the kicker, is all above board. Like you guys aren't sort of bending the rules to get an advantage.
Well, we haven't been penalised this year, I don't think. So, yeah, I guess no. We're doing all right. Yeah, he's got target on his back every week. So I don't know how many games he's played, 140 or something, maybe like that. So he knows what to do. Yeah, we've got some options as well. So yeah, we always plan for that type of stuff. So yeah, it's all part of the game.
I'm sure he's prepared comfortably wax run.
Yeah. I didn't think you were allowed to whack the halfback because he kicks it, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Ivan Cleary there looking really stressed and anxious about the situation. Didn't seem to be too worried at all. He's been there, done that. It is Groundhog Day. It's timed perfectly again from South, which is what you do.
He's handled it perfectly.
He's handled it perfectly. This because he didn't handle it the best last year and they lost. So
one thing about Ivan, he learns his lessons.
It's good coaching. Like it's an example of good coaching in that, as he pointed out in that clip, they're not being penalised for it. So if they're not being penalised for it, as much as absolutely they're pushing the boundaries, in fact, at stages they're right over the edge. But he's learned the mind games, Jedi mind games lessons from the stoush with Wayne last year. And so I thought he handled that perfectly today.
The fact he's got two players in there now as blockers.
It's cheeky.
Well, I think that's what's confusing the referees because they're basically trained to look for one and certainly looking for movement from one. Because you're putting two in there now, which is basically doubling the width now at different spots, but you've still got to get around them, but they're not moving like we saw Isaiah Yeo moving one of those
moving
instances.
backwards, yeah.
They're not doing that, and it's con the referees.
I love the fact that he threw it back on the referee saying, no, you can't tackle the kicker. Yeah. That's the bit I enjoyed the most. So he's flipped the narrative a little bit and going, well, you need to watch out for Nathan as well.
Yeah.
What about in this game, Alex Johnston, a big injury cloud over him? Will he play? Won't he play?
Yeah, I spoke with Jason Demetriou today and he said that he's improving every day. He's not out of the woods yet. He has to train tomorrow, so they're giving up until the captain's run tomorrow. He's confident but not certain that he will play. But the interesting thing is if he doesn't play, it looks like Richie Kenner, who's only played one game this year, scored a treble in that game, is the one to replace him on the wing.
I think it's a big in. If they can get Johnston on that field, I think it's going to take them a long way to having a chance of winning. They need everyone on the field for this game.